Hello and welcome to the Opportunity Talks, powered by the EPFL Future Leaders Platform. In each episode, we bring you conversations with cutting-edge innovators, disruptors, and dreamers who dare to go off the beaten path and drive meaningful change. In this episode, Laura has a conversation with Divine Nabaweesi, founder and CEO of Divine Bamboo, that provides sustainable clean cooking solutions in Uganda.
Hello, Divine. Welcome. We are very happy to have you today with us. This is one of the series of the Opportunity Talks. To begin with, I would love to know more about you. So can you tell us more about who you are and then more about your company?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here today to share with you what I know from my journey. My name is Divine Nabaweesi, and I'm the founder and CEO of Divine Bamboo. We are located in Uganda. I am Ugandan. I am a mother of one very beautiful boy called Forrest, obviously. He's 14 months. I run a bamboo company, and basically our mission is to stop deforestation through the promotion of bamboo as a sustainable alternative. And through this, we want to see that we empower people while we protect nature as well in Africa.
We would like to ask you first, what is the challenge you decided to focus on?
So the challenge that we are addressing is the lack of access to affordable and sustainable cooking fuels. In Uganda, where I come from, over 90% of the population rely entirely on unsustainable cooking fuels like charcoal and firewood for their cooking needs. So because of this high demand, it's leading to the loss of over 200,000 acres of forest every year, with associated dangers. So for example, communities have less ability to adapt to the changing climate conditions, for example, the droughts and the floods. And of course, then this makes existing conditions like poverty even worse. And as I was preparing, I realized that sometimes you just say something, but it's really important to picture it. So for example, for me, it's something I've seen and I grew up seeing. But like for somebody in Switzerland or in Europe, just imagine if you have to cook food, you don't just wake up and go to the kitchen and turn on the gas and make a coffee or breakfast. Imagine, first of all, you have to look for the food, and then for the women, and then you have to think, oh, where will I get the firewood today? So then you have to walk distances, collect the firewood, and then come back and cook. So it's quite a big challenge that I thought that maybe we can do something about.
Thank you very much. It's very, very clear. But I guess from your perspective, what was the motivation that why you decided to focus on this specific topic? Why it mattered for you?
So for me, I would start with why it mattered. And I think I wanted my life to matter. I want to do something that contributes. We have so many challenges in the world today, and we spend a lot of time online and, not really complaining, but just debating issues. But I wanted to do something that matters. And for me, that was the motivation. And I get asked this question a lot, what was like the turning point for you? And I found that for me, it wasn't one single factor or one single incident, but it was a combination of events that sort of converged into the idea that then became Divine Bamboo. I'll give you an example. Three reasons of why I think that happened. So the first one was, I think I was having a burnout at that time. I was in the real estate industry, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I wasn't happy. And I thought, what can I do that matters? Not just waking up in the morning, you sell houses, you make money, but really what can you do that matters? So that was the first thing. Then secondly, I love nature and I love forests and I love to travel. So in my travels around the country, if I go, for example, to places where I grew up or just a place you've been maybe 5 years ago, you would find that every time you go, either half the forest is gone or the entire forest is gone. So then I started to think, what can we do about this as a country, but also as an individual, what can I do about it? And then thirdly, I would say that it was the experience. Like I mentioned earlier, 90% of the population rely on unsustainable cooking fuels. And that means that most of us, including myself, and that's where Divine Bamboo has a unique advantage because all our staff are local. So they've grown up experiencing this problem, same as me. So I think that, I don't know if you've listened to the speech, the commencement speech by Steve Jobs that he gave at a few years ago, where he said sometimes in life you connect dots going backward. When I look back now, I see that all these factors came together to morph into the idea that became Divine Bamboo. And Divine Bamboo was born, and here we are.
That's brilliant. I mean, to hear the stories of it, this is kind of very, very nice phrase, the idea of Steve Jobs talking about connecting the dots backwards. So the story that you show, like the interest. And I guess now we probably move into the idea of how your approach to the problem. So I know you kind of be already kind of threading through what through your answers, but if you can describe to us your approach to the problem, what there could be, and how do you think that is innovative, that makes change?
So our approach to the challenge was to use bamboo. And why did we choose bamboo? A lot of people, when they think of bamboo, they think of pandas and Asia. But in fact, bamboo is also indigenous to Uganda. So we have a few species of bamboo that are indigenous. And for example, our gorillas, they feed on the bamboo. So the bamboo is indigenous. That was one thing. And then bamboo grows fast. Bamboo is the fastest growing woody plant in the world. It regenerates every year after harvest, but also it does not require artificial pesticides or fertilizers to grow. So we found that with all these advantages, on top of the fact that you can get so many products from bamboo, from clothing to food, construction to paper, and of course, energy. So that's why we decided to do bamboo. And our product is bamboo briquettes. So briquettes are an alternative because they're cheaper than charcoal. They're 36%, but they also cook twice as long. And so our goal is to make sure that we don't just tell people, okay, you cannot cut down trees, but then we give them something that is affordable. And again, sometimes when I travel, people ask, but yeah, is briquettes just as bad as the charcoal? We're not saying it's the magic solution, it's the silver bullet. It is going to be important for the energy transition. Because, for example, in Uganda, the alternatives like LPG or electricity cost up to $100 a month, and most households cannot afford that. And so we find that, for example, our bag of briquettes cost in dollars, that would be $14. But even most people cannot afford that. So people come and they can just buy fuel for $1 a day. So you have to understand the context, you have to understand the reality, and then innovate solutions that are relevant for that population. So that's kind of why we decided to do the bamboo briquettes.
I guess it required a lot of thinking through resources, people, connections, availability, markets. I mean, looks quite complex as a project that develops as a business. So congratulations for that, for literally joining all those dots together and designing something that the people can actually benefit, which is, and the economy actually benefits locally. There is not something that you have to outsource, which is crazy. Like when you see how things travel. So very, very kind of like, very fascinating story. But I guess now moving to the other question is the one I'm personally very curious. I guess the audience would be, how do you move from the idea of using bamboo and the way you kind of move into the business space? What was the process, the challenges, the opportunities you had across? Like, if you can tell us more about that.
Just to tell you, I don't have a background in science or forestry agriculture, so I had to really teach myself most of this stuff. And again, we are very lucky to live in an era where we have access to so much information. You just stand on your laptop and you have access to really all the knowledge that has ever existed. So I'm a very curious person and I like to learn. So for me, it was actually fun to do this. In my free time, I'm still reading about bamboo. It's not like it's work for me, yes, but also to relax. Sometimes I still read about bamboo. So just reading and studying and talking to people, because yes, you have an idea, but maybe there's somebody else who has tried something like that. So I spoke to a lot of people in the industry. What are they doing? What are the challenges? I also traveled a bit. I was fortunate enough to travel, for example, to China, to the Netherlands, to France, to find out what really is happening in the bamboo industry. And so then with that, you start, of course, to look for a team, because you cannot do this alone. You need a team, so then you find a team. But also what has been helpful is when we have an idea, we test it, we pilot, and then we see if it's going to work in the real world. So Divine Bamboo has 3 products. We started with bamboo seedlings. And so we had to learn, how do you propagate these seedlings? How do you do it? So by the time we started, there was very few people doing it. We had to learn how to do that. Right now, we are working on bamboo briquettes. We did the pilots, we did the research with universities, we are scaling, and then of course you have to get partners. So it's really, I would say, combination of factors. From, you have to be hungry for knowledge, you have to be humble enough to be willing to learn, you have to be willing to test ideas, not to say, oh, I think it works like this, but how about we test it out? Oh, I think this is what people want. Okay, so you test it out and see, will they buy it? And so I wouldn't say that the company and the product is perfect yet. We're still on a journey of creating and getting better.
I guess, like, out of curiosity, like you say, you started, I mean, you're the minds of all of that, but how many people did you engage across the process, and how many of you are now working together? So how do you enable, I guess, this project through the knowledge of other people?
So now we are full-time staff of 19, but sometimes we have seasonal workers, and then the staff count can go to 70. I mean, sorry, to 50, 70 to 50, but full-time we're 19. But we also work with different partners. So for example, we work with the local National Forest Authority. We work with organizations like WWF and in Uganda here, but also like WWF in Switzerland. And so we have partners all over the World Economic Forum, because again, it's a local problem, but in the end, it's a global challenge, because, you know, climate change, global warming. And like I said earlier, you cannot do it alone. So you cannot solve climate change as one person or one country or one continent. We need to work together. So that has been sort of how we work here at Divine Bamboo. Collaboration has been key.
Fantastic. And also, like, I mean, this is just a question from this side. Are you able now to export knowledge that you already been developing? So not material, but the actual way of doing things. So you grow in the network in terms of the knowledge network for your kind of business.
That's an interesting question. We have received requests for support from as far as Cambodia and Zimbabwe and Kenya and some countries in West Africa. But I think we're not yet ready to scale. Probably we will be in a couple of years. Sometimes we're happy to advise where we can, but in terms of having branches in those countries, we're not yet there.
But I guess you're already at the stage where you can provide consultancy, because, you know, it's a kind of trial and error, that finding that this network works in terms of the technology they've been developing is quite fascinating, to give opportunities that are alternative to the one, you know, in terms of knowledge.
Yes, where we can, we are able to support, because sometimes, because you've been doing something for so long, you don't think that it's very important, or but then somebody talks to you and they say, oh, thank you so much, you've helped me. So when we can, we're able to do that, yes.
But I guess coming now to the process, how you developed that, something that would be good to know, especially for young people, from person that develop like you such a process, complex process. What's been like kind of things that you wished were done in a different way, things you will recommend, things you will not recommend? So some of the stories that will help a young person that would like to kind of develop a similar journey.
I think, first of all, is you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your idea, because entrepreneurship is really, really hard. I mean, obviously, being a female founder in Africa adds on even more layers of complexity. But I think that entrepreneurship anywhere is difficult and it's tough. So I would advise that you develop a few important characteristics. Number one would be perseverance, because there will be tough times, but there will also be good times. There will be times when maybe the team is not great, but then there will be times, like luckily for Divine Bamboo right now, where you look at the team and you're happy that you're working together and you see that everyone is putting in their best effort into it. And then in the beginning also, when nobody knows about you, it's a bit discouraging, but again, eventually you will get good partners, you will get good investors. Again, with investment, obviously not all money is the same. So you will get investors who don't just give you money, but they support you with the vision. They support you as an individual. So I'll just say, I think perseverance is the biggest one of all, that eventually things will work out. But also if you feel that you're not happy where you are, you know, we have one life. We live 70, 80 years. If you're lucky, maybe 90. So if you feel you're not happy where you are, try something else, try something else. If it works out, that's good. If it doesn't, you still have the lessons and you can then move on to something else. So even failure is not a bad thing, because you take those lessons and then you apply them to the next venture. So for example, I have done a lot of businesses, from agriculture to ICT to sales to real estate. I've done a lot until eventually I discovered my passion. So my challenge was how to turn that passion and my desire to contribute into a business. In the beginning, I didn't even know how to monetize. So the business model came later, but at first it was the passion. So I would say that if you have a passion, follow it, try it, and persevere. Don't give up at the first sign of trouble. Things do get better. And what's important is to really wake up in the morning and you're not like, oh my God, another day in the office. You're like, okay, what are we doing today? So I think that's important, to live a life where you feel like you're contributing and your life matters. I think that's very important.
Thank you very much. These are very beautiful advices that I guess we hope that many people will watch you to listen in particular, because this is exactly things are the kind of daunting, especially when you go into entrepreneurship. And you say, of course, being in a sort of culture and a gender could be those adds on, but the idea to have a passion, follow it, it would be hard. However, it will pay off because this is your life.
You have to, and I think especially in the climate space, you hear a lot of talk now about climate anxiety, because here you are doing your job, you're driving your electric car, you're vegan and whatnot, and then you look at everything else that's happening. I think it's very easy to get discouraged. And so again, seek out people for support, because usually you're not the only one doing it. There are other people in that space. So seek out other people for support. Take time out to rest if you need to, but come back in the fight and, keep going.
I guess this is, I really like this advice, because the idea of anxiety, we know about that, and also because of the world, what's happening. And then you look at yourself and say, okay, today I feel in this way, but it's great because I have this passion. And then, I'm doing something for the bigger world, something that really connects you. I guess we started this conversation with a big challenge, and you described very nicely how your experience actually led the journey. But now that you have a company and you already addressed this somehow, how do you think you're making impact?
So I think we are just starting to see the impact of our work from very small things of people write and they call and they say, oh, your work is inspiring. In the beginning, I think I was not even hearing it. But now I think, okay, that's good if people are saying it's inspiring them to make a difference in their own life, whether it's to plant forests or to switch to more sustainable cooking fuels. But also more directly as a company, like I said, in peak seasons, we employ over 50 people. And in a country like Uganda, that's not nothing. And we've supported 3,200 farmers as well in Uganda, where we train them to grow bamboo. We train them to add value to bamboo products, and they're able to make products like baskets, like furniture and jewelry, and they already start earning an income, and you can see the excitement. For example, we have a program with WWF Uganda where we are training farmers in the western part of the country to make simple products like jewelry and crafts. And then one lady, after the training, it was just a 6-month project, but after the training, we were talking about impact. And she said, now when she goes home, she's able to look at her husband and also contribute some money. And he no longer asks her, like, hey, where are you going now? Like, where are you leaving home? You're just useless after you leave the home. Now she can say, I'm going to work because I make money from bamboo products. So we have the farmer program. Then we've also supported the establishment of 300 hectares of bamboo, which altogether is able to sequester almost 20,000 tons of CO2 every year. And this is just in the beginning. And going forward over the next 5 years, we hope that we will even increase the jobs created, support even more farmers, about 10,000 farmers, and establish more plantations. So the impact, we're just getting started, and we hope in the coming years that it will steadily increase.
So I guess what the impact you're doing is somehow twofold. One side is empowerment, it's education, it's economy, but also like through the bamboo, there is an impact, there's an environmental impact on its own, because this is local, this is something that contributes to the CO2 reduction.
Exactly.
I guess like towards the end of the question, is there anything I didn't ask you?
If I would go back in time with all this knowledge that I have now, would I take it? I think I wouldn't, actually, because I don't know if it would be as simple to step into this project if you know how difficult it's going to be. All those months when you feel like you're just going crazy, and the burnout and the disappointment. I don't know. So maybe it's easier when you just have the optimism and the excitement and you start. But I think I would have liked to know that it's going to work out, that eventually you will find the right team, the right partners, the right investors, and eventually you will wake up and look in the mirror and be happy that, yes, I'm doing work that matters.
That's very true. Like, thank you for sharing this. Like, this is like, I will definitely go back, even though it was not easy.
Yeah.
And I actually have a question I wanted to ask, which is about the future.
Sure.
So
Sure.
Where do you see the future of Divine Bamboo going? In any sort of mean future would be for you?
So the future, I think this year has been particularly good for Divine Bamboo. And it gives me a lot of hope. The future is very, very bright. We just have, let me just say, we have a lot of exciting things in the pipeline. But in the coming 2 years, we are going to be able to exceed the impacts we've had in the last 7 years tenfold. So, for example, just to give you an example, our current production capacity is 10 tons a month. But with the investment we've secured, next year, we are going to be able to produce 200 tons a month. And within 3 years, we're going to increase our impact from about 2,000 families a month to over 2 million families. And also, we are going to increase the number of farmers. We are targeting from 3,200 to about 30,000 farmers.
It is brilliant to hear the story, like, and see how things kind of will grow, and then like in terms of also like the opportunity that might come out of the business. I guess, as we discussed earlier, like, could be both from the environmental perspective and both from the kind of social economic perspective. So, Divine, it's been brilliant to talking with you, and we really enjoy literally hearing the experience and the drive and how this grew, and then the opportunity to actually create a different level. So thank you very much for today, for sharing your knowledge with us, and it's been great, and I wish you best of luck with everything.
Thank you for having me, and I hope that maybe somebody picks one thing that helps them on their journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Opportunity Talks, powered by the EPFL Future Leaders platform. For more information, please visit futureleaders.tools.